Yes, it started. Okay, guys, welcome to Weird Millennials. I'm your hostess, Black Widow, Black Snow White, Fatima, FK Alden. I have a lot. But anyhow, today we have a very great conversation that will go on. We don't have a guest today, but don't worry. Next time we will have another one and the subject will be great. Thank you again for still hanging there, watching us, being patient with us because we know how hard it could be because, we have also busy lives. We have to do the best we can. The money doesn't come up just easily unless you
Yeah.
subscribe, of course. So, Abid, it's your turn.
Okay. Yeah. No, you already know who I am. This is Abid. I'm half of the podcast. I think. What episode are we on now? Like 10 or 12 at this point?
No, this is episode 3 of season 3.
Episode 3 of season 3. But how many episodes have we
In
recorded
total,
from start?
from starting 22.
We've had 22 episodes.
Yeah, we have about that 22 episode.
Dang, where does the time go? Wow, it just seemed like
It goes somewhere.
it seems like it was just not. Yes. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So as you guys know who I am. I'm here. This is Abid,
No,
aka
it
young,
is.
aka young brown snowflake.
You're wrong, snowflake.
Yeah. The usual
Oh,
one half.
yeah.
You. I don't know. When did you dye your hair blue?
I didn't dye my hair blue. It's
When did you
purple,
when did you
blue,
get
and
blue?
lilac.
Yeah,
I
but when
did
did you
that
get
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice.
Thanks, thanks.
I like it. It's cool.
I'm
Keep it
having
going.
fun with my hair. You know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool. It's cool. I like it. It's different. But
thanks.
anyways, so
Yeah.
what we wanted to bring in this episode about is sort of the last two episodes were inherently, well, let's put it this way, they're confrontational. First there was the episode about
Porn.
porn, and then there was the episode about cheating. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I didn't want the last episode to be a complete fight, but I guess it sort of just turned into that. But I guess that happens when you bring on a guest, etc., and then different views, different things. But yeah, I didn't necessarily want it to completely go in the way of a confrontation. So I was hoping to bring this episode back into focus so we can basically reframe or put a little nuance into different perspectives. And what was touched up on that episode, one particular point that I think a lot of the frame came from, in like disagreements, it stemmed from values. So
Mhm.
what I want to touch on this episode was just bring to light the way values shapes how people determine who's compatible and who's not compatible. Because a lot of times what I found, like in our conversation that we were having at the last episode,
Mhm.
I would come from a point and I would say, well, this is how I view it. And then you would come from the point of, I view it in this way. And I
Mhm.
feel like there is nuance there. And I think the main issue stems from difference of values. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Because I mean, Mark was challenging me on that, and he was saying, well, you didn't find someone with the different values, etc. And then, but my argument for that, and I would put this up to you, is rationally, it's not about if someone is religious or not religious. Because at the end of the day, everybody has their own guidelines or like ideas or things that they want when they're looking for a partner. For example, I'm religious, so I'm naturally going to seek out someone who meets those criteria in my head before I even seek out somebody. And I have these set type of values. Like I want someone who's fit, so naturally I'm going to gravitate and find someone who's fit. So when you seek out somebody that naturally has the things you value seek, you're not going to have that conflict. And I think the rationale that I would like to put forth with you, if you agree with me or not, is that I'm saying opposites. People can say opposites can attract, but I think the rationale is that if you want to have a healthy relationship, everybody, whether they're religious or not religious or believe whatever, you find people with similar mindsets to you, and that shapes how or whether or not you're going to get into a relationship with them.
I see
Would
what.
you agree with that?
Yeah. So for that part, because you were saying that, yeah, opposite attract and all that, I agree with that part. Sometimes it does work. that some people with different approach to life will attract, but the value, the core itself, they will still have to have that kind of like common point for them to kind of like see eye to eye, because you cannot go with someone who doesn't share your values, because I feel like there's a difference between your background and history and your values, what you value, because you can still have your, or you build your own even though you come from a very specific type of religion, for example. See, for I would take just to you, like you were saying earlier, you want a girl who was religious, but
Yes.
also you want someone who can challenge you mentally, right?
Agree, but
It isn't,
oh, go ahead. Like
but you don't
I'll
want a girl who
go.
will be submissive to you, right? 100% submissive, meaning that everything that you use just to kiss the floor where you walk.
No, I don't think
Exactly.
I don't think
So
you want to. Yeah, go ahead.
so that's where I see where the point of value come from. That you build, you create your own, where you just like, okay, this is the value that come from where I grew up, my background, my religion. Where they say, okay, you want to have a Muslim woman, we'll meet that criteria because that's what you believe in. But also, you want someone who will challenge you. But others in that same culture, they will, okay, so that's the word I wanted to make the separation, the culture and value. Because to me, they are not the same thing. The value is how you perceive the person, and the culture is what had influenced you for your decision. You're still looking for someone who will challenge you mentally, where it's not going to be just like peaceful all the time, where you will be able to have conversation where he can disagree with you in a manner where you still see a little bit where the other one come from, but without trying to absolutely change them to mold them to who you are, if you see what I mean.
No, I see what you mean. I think that's where I was having debates on the last episode, because I think when we were talking last time, it came down to like I was talking about religion, and they
Mm-hmm.
said you want someone you're trying to control somebody with religion,
Yeah.
and my argument for that was inherently, regardless, everyone. It's not about religious or control. Because my argument is, if you're not, let's say for example, you're not a religious person, if you seek out or find a religious guy, let's say it's Christian or Jewish or Muslim, whatever, that person inherently, part of his structure, what that person would define as what they want in a relationship would be someone who goes to the mosque or the church with them, who follows the religious holidays. But if you yourself are like, I don't value those things, that person's not going to be compatible with your values. So you inherently, every single person, whether they're religious or not, they know themselves on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
They inherently go into the whenever they're seeking out a partner in general.
Yeah.
They go into it saying, okay, I know what my limits are, and I know what's in my box, what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I have to find someone that fits my box. Because I mean,
Mm, not
would you
only.
go ahead?
No, keep go with your thought there.
Yeah, because my thing is, it's not about trying to control. I don't want to control. I don't want to push my religion on other people. I don't want to put. I'm not going to. I can't hold. I use the logic for Mark, or I explained it to him when I had
Mm.
the phone call, and I can use it to you. Like, even though we're Muslim, or so we both have disagreements when it comes to religion, but
Yeah.
I come from the perspective of being a religious Muslim. But I can't hold you to the standard and expect you to be a religious Muslim unless you define yourself as a religious Muslim. Then I can hold you to that standard and say, okay, why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? But
But
if
why
you present,
that?
because that person has determined that that's a core of the standard that they hold for
Yeah,
themselves.
as you
Yeah.
just mentioned, a core of what make them who they are, but it doesn't mean that they absolutely have to follow those values the same way you do. That's how it goes.
True.
Because your relationship with religion, this is the concept that I understood by hanging out with a lot of people of different background. That is personal. It's like your relationship with your partner is also personal. The way that you are with your partner is not going to be the same that you will be seeing other people be with their partner. So when you are expecting someone to meet how you view your own religion, how you practice it, it's kind of projecting yourself to that person. You don't have to do that. You still have those similarities, but you have to understand that even if they don't do exactly the way you do it, it's fine as long as that works for them.
No, I agree with you. but I also think where we had some disagreement, where you can agree or disagree on here, is that everybody sets a standard of how they want to be viewed out to the world. Like you want to be presented as an intelligent black female who's articulate, who reads. So
No.
naturally, you don't want to be perceived. What if somebody is, for example, I consider you a very intelligent person. What if somebody is like, I perceive black women to be stupid and just like with that person, and you're like, I have the values of like, I value intelligence, I value good conversation. Wouldn't you naturally want someone who values good conversation as well?
I do. See, that's the part that you and I will agree on that, but I think it's just ways articulate that is not coming off right. You know, the person who will say that, okay, all black women are stupid and dumb.
Yeah.
You think that I will get mad at them? No. Because I don't feel the need to prove anything to them. I will just be myself, and then he will understand that no, it's not everybody that you can call monkey and act stupid. It's not working like that. Most of the time, it's just, I would say, those people, it's just because they go based onto your stereotype that they have seen on media, but they never interact in real life with people that way because they already have that bias when they encounter them and say that, yeah, you must be that, you must be ghetto, I'm not going to hang out with you. Me, sometimes I can be very loud. I can be a good extrovert. I can make you believe that I always being like the one who go out to just to be friend with everybody, being the shy person. I can make you believe that because I'm a good comedian on that end. But
yeah, it's a little bit. I think more so when I was framing this is everybody sort of has a framework for what they want in a relationship, or you can call it marriage, or if you choose to make it to a marriage, that's up to you. I'm not here to push the value of marriage or the institution of marriage. It works for some people, for specific, it doesn't work for other. But I was more focusing on the idea of, you come into it with the idea, okay, I have set idea, or I have set things that are very important to me. So I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to change what's important to me. I'm going to find someone who values the things I want. So for example, I use the example of, okay, I know I want children. So naturally, that's a part of my value system. So I'm going to seek out somebody who wants children as well, rather than force someone who doesn't want kids to try to adopt my idea, because then I'm sort of controlling them and pushing my beliefs on them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I see that point of view. But what I mean is, well, for the values, they don't need to be so, stiff. Earlier you were talking about an example, religious, but if I date a guy who is more religious than me, do you think that both of us can now be working together? Maybe. Those are like the chance that it would not work because we don't see or approach. But sometimes see is just a middle ground that can be found in both. Like, not fully change who you are, but adapt to invite your space.
I agree. There is a framework. There is a middle ground, but I would consider it like, it's like a Venn diagram. Like, there's stuff you agree with, stuff you disagree with, and then there's stuff in the middle that you both sort of meet in the middle on. And the problem is, if the stuff you agree, if the 2 points are so opposite of each other, there's nothing in the middle anymore. Then it's like at that point, the value system is too far off to actually build a foundational relationship.
But in that case, why would they be together? Why would be the goal to be together? It's sure, like on a short time, sometime, earlier we were talking about the opposite attract. Those people, they need to have that experience for a short amount of time, because after a moment, all that will clash. But if they don't find a way to kind of work it off, it's not going to work out. So they will go back to what they'll feel more comfortable with.
No, I had this debate with Mark after that call, because I mean, it was a good episode, but it was about, he said, well, if you, let's say you go for someone who's completely different than you, maybe he'll challenge your ideas. But my argument was to him was, let's say I know for example, he values astrology. It's very important to him. If that is a very important part of my life, astrology is something very important for instance. What am I going to gain by someone who absolutely hates something I value. Like at that point, we are not even at a middle ground. Like, I feel like, wouldn't you just naturally be happier? Not saying you're trying to control somebody, but wouldn't you be naturally happier with someone who appreciated the same thing? Not saying it was hobbies, but saying had appreciated the same things you had, or had value for the same things. That's what I
I
mean.
would say for understanding, but
Yeah.
they don't have to appreciate it. They still can hate it. I mean, I can take a very simple here. So my boyfriend and I, we like to read books. He liked to read non-fictional, very much like biography, this type of thing, like very, very like almost article type of things. That's his. Me, I'm more fictional. I love fantasy books about type of things, and it's not much his thing, right? But it's not for much that he will mock me and say that, oh, you like gobbling stuff and things that I don't understand, like Harry Potter, this kind of thing. It's not his stuff. And he like more realistic type of books where it's historical events kind of things. This talking about like stuff that if I start to read it, I will have a headache. But agree that it's something that we like, but we understand the other one view and approach to it, but it doesn't mean that I have to love it. Like, he liked to play softball. I don't understand shit about that sport. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I find it boring as fuck. But he love it. But you don't see me telling him stop playing softball because I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if softball is actually part of a value system. What I could say is,
yeah, but what I mean is just that I'm
Yeah.
taking that as an example, as something
Yeah.
that would be similar to what the person like or not. For him, for example, okay, you want to talk about values? He doesn't believe in marriage. He doesn't think that
Okay.
is something that is working. He thinks that is something, it's a construct that have been created to just give a sort of conversation about a title that doesn't make sense to him.
Yeah.
But I do believe in marriage. But my view onto how I believe in marriage is more romantic compared to him. Why? Because of what had influenced my life about it. For him, it was more about that he saw his parents go through a very awful divorce when he was a teenager. I hear the person named
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm just trying to get some work done. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to pause the.
Okay,
Okay.
now it's good now.
Okay. Okay, I guess where I want to frame this is, you mentioned that marriage is a thing, part of values, right? Because you said you value the romance and nuance. But my thing is, I feel like you still have a middle ground with your approach to marriage. Like, it's not like, there's some people who view it as, if this person doesn't marry me, then there's no relationship whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so could that person who has that view of marriage be compatible with your boyfriend? That's my question for you.
I don't think so. Well, I'm not sure 100% though. I cannot just predict that. All I know is just that he make it clear that he doesn't see himself being like in this type of commitment, because to him it's not. And again, all that is related to something that he witnessed. Me, I didn't witness bad marriages. I witnessed very beautiful, solid, good marriages. I also witnessed ugly one. But my view to it is say that the most of what I have witnessed is that turned out to work. He had witnessed like something more traumatic where it didn't work. So the fear of commitment always have been there. It took to be where we are right now.
Okay, appreciate that. So I guess my thing is, like, I was approaching it from the value that I feel like that there's still nuance, that there's enough of a middle ground with you that you're like, if I don't get married, it's not the end of the world. But I'll use that example of the girl I'm talking to. She doesn't date at all. Her purpose of meeting the opposite sex, she's like, I'm only meeting is the purpose of, if I don't meet you, that's the only reason I'll meet someone, is for the purpose of marriage. If I'm not talking to you for marriage, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
She's like, everything is, the whole purpose is marriage. That's it. There's not really an actual dating. There's no such concept of nothing for the without the purpose of marriage. So when
Yeah.
someone has that set of value, it's very
Mhm.
concrete, it's very conservative, it's very traditional.
Yeah.
How rationally could that someone be compatible with someone who's not traditional on the opposite end of the spectrum? That would be my question for you.
Would not be fully the case, but it can also work out. People change. I would take you example from Tony and Chris, right? When they met, they made it clear what they were valuing about that. Tony said that her purpose is to one day get married and be with someone that she'll, and then the person will be the husband. Chris, son, he didn't believe in marriage, didn't want to get married, he didn't even think about it. All he wanted is just to have like and all that. But over the time, with the relationship that he built with Tony, he was able to see that maybe his value to, because one, she didn't pressure him to see that value. She just showed him what life is to be with someone that is supposed to be compatible with you. Because I noticed that why it's not working for a lot of people who are like that, those opposite, it's just because the one always try to push the idea to the other one, to push that value a lot. Especially I noticed for those who want to be married, they are the one always trying to push and kind of like questioning, putting that pressure to that person and saying, well, you have to marry me one day. I'm great. If I'm that great wife or husband, something like that. And for those who have this kind of approach, they would just like retract and be more tense about it. That approach would not work on them because it's a lot of pressure. We also have to understand that some people will say that they don't want to get married. They have issues that they have. Also, you have to look at where they come from. Like, what is their background? What situation had made them to not believe into that anymore? You have to look at that picture, not just when they tell what they tell you. You have to see the history in there. You have to look at the family background. For example, are their parents are still married? Notice most of the time, people who are like vindictive against marriage come from broken homes that the parents divorced and it was a nasty divorce. Have
No,
you ever noticed that?
I've noticed that. I came from, but the value, the institution of marriage is still ingrained, but that's partially because of religion. My argument is, I personally don't think that anybody should go into any relationship trying to change someone's values. Like,
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
example, if someone is absolutely against marriage, why would I engage? Why would I go in trying to change their ideas? I think that's an inevitable conflict that will cause breaking points for a lot of people.
Because it's a selfish reaction.
Yeah.
It's a selfish reaction to that because most of the time, it's not that the person doesn't want to get married at all. Sometimes you're just not the right person. See that with you. You think that when they go to the next, they don't see that with anybody until it changed.
No, my thing is, like, even if you have the same values, that person could just not be right for you. Like, someone could want the same things on paper, and then it just doesn't work out because you realize, but you still had the same value system. So that's why you decided to meet in the first place. My thing is, there's at least a few check boxes that at least you were willing to work with the person, that you're like, okay, this person is compatible with the things for example, like, you like to work out, right? You're fit. Could you be with somebody who I wouldn't say hates the gym, just doesn't believe in fitness in any capacity, doesn't believe in taking care of their health, or is just like, I think that's that's part of your value system.
Yeah.
So
For that one, because I mean, I value my health for a very long time because as a kid, I was extremely sick. So if I have the opportunity to always make sure that I will stay healthy as long as possible, I would do it. But if the person that come to my life want to mock it and discourage me, it's not going to work great. Because I will say that from the beginning. I go to a first date, I would say, I am someone who like to work out. I like to take care of my body. I'm not doing that for anybody else, but for myself. Agree with doors open, you can still leave. That's it. Weirdly enough, you know what? That's exactly what my boyfriend was dealing with it. He was dealing with that with his ex. He told her that he was going to the gym every day of the week. So when they were together, she was starting to be annoyed and angry that he would go on the gym, kind of like say that, yeah, you prefer just to go to the gym and all that. But he told her from the beginning, I'll go every day. But she didn't really her. He was good looking, but the thing is, good looking is not just happen when you sleep. You work on it.
Yeah,
It's the
so
result of
my thing is that comes from your value system. You valued fitness, so you gravitate towards someone who valued fitness as well. So inevitably, someone who is completely against that wouldn't fit your criteria as part of your system.
not always. Maybe sometimes, you can get some situation where, now it will sound like I'm contradicting myself, but it's okay. Where the person doesn't value fitness, but they're just like, good for you. You work out, okay, but it's not that. As long as they don't try to change me to become a potato couch, I'm fine. Or me, you trying to push them and say, oh, you should come work out. You should come work out. No, if you don't have the motivation, but me, I have the motivation to work out for myself, for my own good. I'm just like, that one, that's who I am as a person, but as a value in a relationship, that one is not a freaking deal breaker, I would say. The thing that would be more a deal breaker would be like, let's say we talk about children and how we raise them. That's why I will have some swing and say that, no, this one we have to, that this is how we're going to do that, because it's a teamwork. Oh, I will be the type of parent and say that, yeah, they need to go to Bible school, study every Sunday. I'll be like, no, that's not my thing. It's not my value. I don't.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there, but I mean, it's. I do think though, part of compatibility, it's you want to say. I mean, you could find someone. That's why I would say that, like, just because you find someone attractive necessarily, you could find a lot of people you find attractive on the street. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone you find attractive is good for you. And I think that
That's
comes
true.
from the idea that you might have things that you were like, I want this in a relationship, ideally. So I have to figure out if this person has those criteria. And then you could be talking to this person and realize, hey, this person doesn't want any of the things I want. So this person might not be good for me. But I feel like that is inevitably, it's not just religion. I feel like everyone who's, whether you're religious or not religious, does this.
Everything.
Is you
but also,
figuring out,
no, go ahead.
Is you figuring out what you want, and then you finding someone who matches up. I'm not saying they have to have the exact same things that you value, but enough that it's like, okay, I can work with this person. That was my argument for it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I did want to bring up a point, because it came, like, the last podcast, it came off as a fight when I brought this stuff up, because I felt like the perception was when I talk about it, is that I came off like I'm pushing religion on people. But at the same time, if, let's say, the person wasn't religious at all, that person wouldn't fall within the same value system as me. So I couldn't hold that person to the concept of pushing religion, because it doesn't make sense, because we would be just on way too opposite lens. So I wouldn't be trying to change that person's ideas. So inevitably, I think there's people that have enough of a nuance with my ideas, and they know they fit those ideas. That's why there's somewhat of a potential compatibility. And I think that everybody looks for people within their ideas as to if they're potentially compatible. Like, everybody has their own criteria, and they're like, okay, could this person potentially be compatible with me? And I think that is just everybody figuring out what is important to them and trying to find someone that complements their own, value system.
But you know what? There's something else that I want to bring up on that earlier, when we were talking about, like, people will just go with the attraction. Sometimes it will just get to please the person that of them, because they find them so attractive they want to kind of like mold themselves into an image that the person believes it will make them interesting instead of being themselves. Some people would just disregard what the person tell them from the beginning. So if a dude tell me from the get-go he is trusted, that I'm going to believe him because he's not trying to pretend to be something else. And I noticed that a lot of girls, and I'm not just talking about like, yeah, I did that before, because I'm not like that. I'm 200%, which is apparently can be a problem, where they will be trying because they are willing to bend their own value, everything, just to be with him. And then after that, they unravel their true self. And that's why a lot of time when people end up that does not work, they say that, oh, you changed, because they didn't show them from the beginning who they were. And then after that, now I'll go to the part where you were bringing up about the conversation of the previous podcast, where it can come off really much like, I think it's just probably to express it. It can come off like you want to be pushy with your religion onto the person in the relationship. But also, you and I, we kind of like understand that the type of woman that you're looking for, they have a lot of similarity with you, where they already have that religion is the same thing that you believe in. But the only place where I would say that they're like a little bit pushy of if they don't practice that value that is so sacred to you the same way that you do.
My argument to that is because I went and I asked my partner about this if I'm pushy, but they're like, she said, well, I have the exact same values as you, so I don't view it as controlling because I expect the same thing from you. So, but she's like, that comes from someone being religious. She's like, you can't expect people who aren't religious to have those rules. And it just comes from both things. Like, people who are conservative will find someone else who's conservative. Someone in terms of religion, like, you're not gonna it works best when
even politics, because you cannot be with someone who's just like ultra liberal and someone who's ultra conservative together. That would be weird. If that happened, wow. But you notice that it's mostly like that. Religion and politics, those very two, you have to have a lot of similarity with the other person.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And
I want to bring up.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up the point you mentioned about someone being good looking, but then not know. I use this example because I know your value system. Let's say you meet a guy. You don't have a boyfriend or anything. You meet this guy. He's 10 out of 10 in your looks, like hot body, good looking face. You're like, this guy's 10 out of 10, and you get to know him. But he's like, Fatima, I like you, but I'm a church boy. I go to church every Sunday. I want a girl who's in church with me every Sunday. I want my kids raised, growing up with the Bible, doing everything, growing up in the church, and that's important for me. If you, with your values, being like, okay, this guy's still a 10 out of 10 in looks, would you go for this guy? That's my question for you.
No.
Based off that scenario.
No. Yeah. Because you know what? This is because I'm being very honest here. This is my approach. It's just like, it's not just the Bible that your children have to also read other books, because having other perspective and understand other people's religion, to me, is more important than just believing into Jesus Christ, the hippie dude. That's not my thing. And even if he's a 10 out of, even with my current boyfriend, it took me to be able to be like, he's more than an eye candy, because I find him very, very. How many times I said on that podcast, that on this podcast, in my head I was sitting on his face. I said a million times, but just that good looking dude, no substance, nothing, just physically. It was just physical. And to know him, I was surprised, because I was just like, I would not date him, because first of all, he's just good looking. He must be super dumb. If I talk about history, he was probably say that I'm a nerd, this kind of thing. And then realizing that over time we have a lot in common. We have the same sense of humor. Our approach to spirituality is similar. We don't see that it have to be just a one conform way to approach things. make me fall for him. That
Yeah.
part what he make me fall for him, because again, this is where the value and also the similarity, when they go hand in hand, it works. But if he was just like, yeah, I am very into the church, was one of the just workout, protein shake every day, I would be no.
Yeah, so it worked because you guys had a similar value system. So I would say inevitably everybody will find someone that at least matches up with the things they value on some level, like, or at least
Yeah.
find
It
someone
doesn't
that's
need to be
compatible
100%.
with their ideas.
It doesn't need to be 100% compatible. I would say if you have a good 80%,
Yeah,
too.
that's fair,
Because
80%. But I say that
yeah,
80% is still a lot more than 20%. That's my point.
you don't want a 20% compatibility with the person, because this is just a waste of time on both ends. What would you do with
Yeah,
someone who barely, because the part where you have to look at for those things is how they will respect those values that you cherish. Are you, because you can be, this is something totally random, a different example, but you can be with someone who have a very sarcastic sense of humor, and you on the other end don't get sarcasm. Is that already personality? But you have a hard time to kind of like understand it and embrace it. Some people are ex like very very sarcastic. Um, at one point, him and I we developed a friendship after that, because I was just like, yeah, he's sarcastic. I can get along with him because of that, because that was the thing, the sarcasm. And then he started right after, just after me, and she did not understand that sense of humor. I was just in my head, other friends, we were asking each other, but if she doesn't understand, this is like he sarcastic 24/7. It's not something that he's changing. That's who he is. So I was just like, she will be offended a lot. She will be offended by everything that he will say for nothing. And it was the case, because could not fathers that he could be friend with me, because we were dating for a moment. She didn't get that in her mind, because I even told you that story, I think, that when I arrived to Edmonton, she messaged me on Facebook to make sure that I left the province. I didn't know her. I didn't have her on Facebook, nothing. She messaged me, and I messaged her and say, hey, why your girlfriend is messaging me on Facebook? What the hell is going on? And then after that, I learned that, yeah, they broke up. I'm just like, your problem, people, not mine. But that already was a problem. Him and I, we kind of like, there was some stuff that I was not believing. He's more conservative than I am. And to me, I was just like, this relationship is more friendship than relationship. So we end that there. We just like, we're a cool friend, just talking to each other once in a while.
yeah.
But beside that, not much in common.
Yeah, so I wanted to discuss, like, have you been in relationships or had experience where the guy you got to know him and then you're just like, our values just don't match up, so
Yeah.
we're not compatible with each other.
The one I just talked to you about, it was the
Yeah.
case. Because there was some ideology, and especially politic wise, that I was just like, this is not who I am, and I'm not the type of person believing these things.
So when you say, do you think politics has to divide people, or is it like
not always,
yeah,
not always, because you're still able to, if you are able to have conversation and constructive arguments without trying to always like demonize the opposition because they don't view the things the way you do or agree with what you agree. Yes, you still can make it work, as long that is still, again, in the like,
yeah.
if in a relationship does not believe that gay people have right to exist because to the same sex, I don't find it fine, because what other people do and who they're dating, why does that hurt you so much?
Yeah, so it's from your values. So if the guy was, for instance, extremely against abortion,
I'm out. I am out, because again, those guys don't understand a lot of things that going on with that part. That conversation can be a different episode that we can talk about. Me, I believe that people are free to make the choice that they want with their own body. And I don't think that someone tell a woman to not get an abortion if her life is at risk or if is product of a rape. Um, for those one, I cannot go with someone who had those opposite view. I made it clear. I think that I do believe into it. It's not a crime to me. It's as long that doing that is doing that safely. I rather that they make that legal. At least maybe you will see that there will be less people doing that, and because people don't think about it. What you do is just that condemn a woman to give birth to maybe to a child didn't want, or second, a child who have a so severe disability that the woman was always struggle until this kid or she die to raise that a new human who can by themselves. So my view on that can be seen as very pro-choice, very liberal, but I don't mind that view. I rather think that way and say that, yeah, you know what, if you do that, that's okay. And if someone is not comfortable with that because of their religion or their value, okay, good for them, but don't peg that on that other person. Don't demonize them because they make that choice, this kind of things.
My view on that, like, I mean, just to bring it into values, is that I wouldn't say we're completely similar, but it comes to a similar conclusion. Like, I'd be against abortion if anyone was in a relationship with me of any kind, like for my personal self. But my logic is I can't push my religion on the entire society, so I have to give people the freedom to do what they want. Like, it's not my place to push my religion on the whole world, on the country, because everybody has the right to do what they want, and that's how I viewed it. But I understand that there's some people who feel that maybe everybody should be have that the human, it's a human right for the fetus. But I guess those people would inevitably find someone who holds similar views to them.
Yeah.
On the, I think generally speaking, what I've noticed, like in my life, like when it comes to you generally find someone that has I wouldn't say 100% similar.
No,
but
it doesn't need to be 100% similar.
But at least 80%, even on the political end, like you talk about ideas. And if you're completely disagreeing on every issue politically, then odds are you're probably not going to work out as well.
Yeah. Because I would say one thing though. This is me just to with the observation I noticed. Your politic choice and religion choice are kind of like hand in hand, and those are detrimental to a relationship. If you're not able to establish from the beginning what are those two things, I would say they're kind of like the fundamental of human being. If you're not able to define what are your fundamental and yourself into a relationship just because the person, oh my God, they're so cute, they're so hot. It's not, no. Because that's where a lot of people forget. They just, it seems like they get blinded and deaf when they just see the person being so attractive that they disregard everything else that they say, who they are, what is their value, what is their behavior. I noticed that a lot of people that because they're just like, I don't care. You hot, I'm into you, you're into me. That's all that matter. Instead of you had but what did you just say?
Yeah.
You had what? Oh, I don't like girls who do too crazy colors on their hair. I was like, dude, you just meet me on my sober period.
Yeah, I've had this conversation. I've been on other people's podcasts and I've had conversations with this. Like, inevitably, when you're going to meet somebody at the initial stages, you're getting to know them. You're not going to tell them everything you think about. So I've had the argument that you bring up feminism on the first day if you disagree with it. If it's going to start a fight, then you might just be like causing an issue from day one. So
it's like,
do you think
of Alpha?
Like, do you think people should be bringing up politics on the first date or these ideas, or should you wait a while before talking about this stuff?
Maybe not bring up politics right away, but just to like what is who you are. Like for the first thing is just like people judge the book by it, right? But what hook you in to read the book is the first couple lines of that damn thing. So, or the back of the book where you have a kind of like a synopsis of what is the story about that will make you hook. So if you go to a first date, your synopsis is kind of something very superficial, this and that, but you're not saying much. It won't trick the person, yes. But after that, when they read the book, they're like, it have nothing to do with the synopsis that I read. That one is not okay. You can still kind of like present yourself in general and kind of say what are your views here and there and your values. Or if you're one of those rare people who just like to be 100% and say, listen, I'm a feminist, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a that, you take me as I am. Or if you don't, it's okay, there's other people. Good for you. But again, a lot of time it's just when it comes to those things, people don't always go with the open mind from the beginning. Others will be very structural when they date or relation, because for them, again, there's no work onto how on things the other person or the relationship is supposed to fix me. We talked about it about on the cheating episode, that when we bring that baggage, whether we know it or not, because sometimes we're not even aware that we are doing it, that we are bringing still that baggage with us because we think, oh yeah, I did the work, but no, you did not do the work really, because all the people would do most of the time after a breakup, they were like, what's wrong with me? And then they're like, oh, I'm going to eat ice cream. And after that, it's like, oh no, I'm going to the physical, but they don't think about like fixing the emotional. Why do I keep repeating the same pattern? Why do I keep going with the same guys? There were a long time where I was always going after the men that were emotionally unavailable because of my own trauma. I was not aware of it until I was just like, yeah, I have a thing for that. If a guy was like emotionally available to me, that will freak me out and I will run the opposite way. So when people goes there, they still try. Most of people, the problem why they are in failed relationship as well, because they still haven't figured out fully what, not figure out, but they haven't described it to themselves well yet. They're still figuring out. They try to understand. They still haven't clearly defined what is their value, what they believe in. That's why they are in random stuff, and they allow their partner to do random stuff that normally, if they were more rational about it, like you do sometimes, be more rational about it, they'll be like, hold on, this doesn't make sense. Why would I accept that? You know? But I'm saying things, hey, I'm a Luna. I'm
No.
curious cat. It's just the thing is I'm curious about a lot of things in general.
My argument for you, because I approach it like, I feel like when you're religious, you approach meeting someone a lot different than, it's almost like arranged marriages too. You go in super serious because it's the dynamic of the meeting.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not sure, like if you're on a first meeting, if you're having a general, let's not bring religion, like if you're just having a general first meeting with somebody, do you go into that first conversation talking about politics, or I thought the whole point is to just have a general, like, oh, what's your favorite color? Like you're not talking about politics or your view of the wage gap or stuff like that.
You see, that's why I was bringing up earlier, like you take that as an example, like a book, the synopsis that would drain make you come to read the book. What you see on the back of that cover, that's supposed to be the first date. A general idea who you are as a person. Some, they can make it look very nice and kind of like give you an idea. It's like basically a resume and a cover letter. There you go. I'll go now full HR on that. It's like a resume and a cover letter. You have those who are very generic, basic. It doesn't tell you much about the person. It's flavorless. And then you have those who take the time to work on each paragraph to make you understand who they are, but without telling you too much. And the resume tell you exactly what is the story. And when you look at it, you're just like, I kind of have a picture who that person is, and same also with their value. That's how I would say that some people will go onto their first date. But again, all that goes with people who haven't do the work in their mind of figure out who the fuck they are, meaning that they take the time to see their flaws, like really take the time to look who they are and figure out and say, this is my values, this is who I am and all that. How do I present myself to the world? When people see me now with like those crazy color in my head, it was like, oh, she probably one of those very eccentric who probably use the they them pronoun or whatever, crazy stuff, without knowing that even though the hairs may be crazy, but I have more an approach, I would say, close to a conservative way. That's the
On
thing.
some aspects,
Yeah,
yeah.
some aspect I'm very conservative. Other aspect I'm not. And it's also when people explain say the word feminist, and you kind of see that as a bad thing. I don't see all the things that come from that word of being bad. Feminists now, they're on steroid. I don't know what the fuck is that, because it's not this feminism that I grew up and understand from. Because now it's not even people seeking for being equal, they're seeking to dominate the opposite sex, men, straight men. I don't know how to explain that. Is now it's more about like dominate the other, instead of we want equality, we want to be respected the same way and that way. That's why the manosphere is prosperous right now, because again, these two, the feminists of today and the alpha male of today, all they want is dominate each other. Both are alphas. Both of them. There's no share value anymore. This is now, oh, I want this, I want this. It's not even, I would like this, but what would you offer? What do I bring to you? It's always like me, give me, give me. Those alpha dude, the foot and feet fry fish idiots. For them, everything the woman had to please them. But what do they have to offer to the woman beside money? Beside money and their tiny dick, what do they have to offer? Nothing. They're not saying what they bring to the table. Oh, they say, I'll bring money. But okay, she also can work and bring more money than you. She opened the OnlyFans, she's richer than you, dude. So this kind of thing is just that now it became more onto the war of dominance instead of understanding. So that's why a lot of people have a hard time to also go to listen to the other person. What is their value? Or people kind of like forget to talk about that or bring it up. You still can bring it up at your first date. Don't get me wrong, you can still do that. Some people are very comfortable to talk about politics on their first date, but at least it will tell you the color of the person and how they go.
So you think there's no topic that is off, there's nothing that's off topic on a first date?
Nothing is off topic. It's never off topic. That's the thing. It's just that people think that there are rules. Like, oh, you go on a first date with a guy, you don't see him a little bit. After 3 days, you have to wait 3 days for them to contact them. That's bullshit. You want to call them? Call them. You want to text them? Do it. It's basically that. It's just what you want to do. It's not making you look needy or desperate if you contact the person. What you do is just telling them, I have interest in you and I have interest into what we have. I liked that connection. I like that dynamic. You're just saying that I am showing you interest. And same thing also for the values. People just now feel too afraid to tell them because they will be labeled extremely this or extremely that. Oh, you're feminist. Oh, you're this. Oh, you that. Or like those guys will kind of like have a very traditional approach of what is to be a man and the alpha males. That people like to put them under the same category than those bozos because they think that, yeah, this is the thing. That's why on the previous podcast that we did, I'll say that there's some views that Andrew Tate provide that I agree with, but I think just the message, how he put that is not okay. But I put that out, and I promise you, a lot of people will be mad at me because I say that as a woman. And mainly it will be women be mad at me because I say that. Because it's like, how dare you? No, before getting mad at anything, it's like when they get like those celebrities saying one thing and they just take out the context, just one specific thing, and they go off at them. I like to always go with the whole picture. So yes, first date, there's no a conversation that is off. You can talk about anything. And again, that depends on your chemistry with the person. Because if you have zero, what are you going to talk about? Well, the weather. Oh yeah, you like steak.
I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and I think there's an interesting critique that I think I would want to pick your brain on in regards to. You listening? Wait, she left. What the heck? Oh, she's her food is burning. Did the food burn?
The potatoes were still like, whoa, man, we have been cooking for a long time. Okay.
Were they
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
Were they
Yeah. I
good?
was listening.
Okay, so I think there's one. I saw this podcast a few days, and I want to pick your brain on it, especially when it comes to because modern day marriage has changed since the way it used to be like 50, 100 years ago. And what they said was your grandfather. It was a bunch of women that were discussing this, and what they said was 50, 100 years ago, your grandfather, except when he got married and your grandmother got married, typically in most cases, she needed him because women didn't work. So it was sort of a survival tactic. So she had to get married to this guy because it was sort of like her best interest. I need this guy to sustain myself, and I need money. I need a place to live. So I'm going to marry this guy because I'm not working. That's a lot of women weren't working then. They didn't have skills. And in addition to that, the men were just spent all day working. But in addition to that, they didn't need to provide any emotional attention that much to the woman, because in addition to the woman not working, if she needed to like vent or get out her emotional didn't need it if she needed to get emotional attention, she could call up her friends who also weren't working, and she could vent to them. But now with modern day marriage, women inevitably are working. Your friends are modern day women who are also working. So the guy is not necessarily needed as much as just the provider. So he doesn't need to not only the man in the marriage, since you don't have access to your friends to vent as much as you used to, would inevitably need your husband or partner to make up for the role that maybe your great grandmother used on her friends potentially to vent emotional issues. Or so you would need the guy to take on that role of being the vent that maybe your grandfather didn't have to do back in the day, because all you had to do was just provide. So
No.
you don't agree?
The thing is, most of the time when we talk about like people for 100 and something years ago, weirdly enough, people don't realize that the image that we are making in our mind, the woman not working, is come from the high society, the rich people, because that's how it was. The richest, the women were not working. The poor people, do you think that they didn't already know what it was equality? They were working. They were also working as well as their husband. It's just because history, what is saved as a record is mainly coming from high society, not from the basic regular Joe, the peasant people. No, peasants both were working. Sure, the woman probably didn't do as much like heavy and hard chores as the men. It's just that because their work was more limited onto around like what they had in the house, meaning that they will still work onto their little garden or the field behind the house where they grow food, right? You will see people selling fruit and vegetable in the market. You saw those drawings, you saw in the history books, all that. There are still women have been working. It's just because high society women started to be like, I just want that safety in case if he decide to dump me and marry the maid, this kind of thing. So that's where this kind of like woman not working come from. They come from the high society standard that created and say that, yeah, I'm taking care of everything, you don't need to. But the rest of regular people, they were both working. It's just that at the time, we a human being didn't develop as much leisure as we did now. That was the difference. It's just that for them, they were working Monday to Sunday. They didn't have anything that where there's like, okay, we have to do like a factory work and all that, because they were working onto their land or whatever. That was mainly that. On a daily basis, they didn't have a corporate boss to say, okay, you come this day and all that, and he's the main provider. If you talk about 60 years ago, that is more the picture of modern
Traditional
America.
housewife.
Yeah, the traditional housewife come from, again, the 1950s, after the World War II, America. This is where that come from, where people think that, yeah, this is the image that it became the middle middle class.
Middle class. Yeah.
Yeah, because it downgrade from the high society to the middle class, and people still take that as an example, thinking that it was also applying to the peasant. It was not the case. These women have been working in the Middle Age. Was that most of the time people who having tavern were women. The men will work the field. The women will work onto this kind of thing where they come in restoration and all that, feeding people.
What about cavemen, though? The people say the natural order of society is
Yeah,
the
but
men hunted and the women
yeah, but they
cooked the
got
meal.
it. But guess who got the berries and shit? Women. Because the guy will go, yeah, he will hunt the animal, but the vegetables that you were eating around that, well, who got that from? The women. They were also participating. It's just because we created a moment where class became a part of society order, and where
Yeah.
you see the very privilege. Well, for them to say that how rich you are, your wife don't need to work. She just need to be pretty and do nothing. That started with antique society like Babylonian, Greek, Romans. That's how it started. But before that, cavemen, I'm sorry, everybody was at work. Everybody.
I guess that's an interesting topic because I mean we're sort of shifting off, but I guess from your perspective, do you think women want to be provided for or want a provider?
I cannot speak onto all the women. I think maybe some of them want, others don't. I have a friend. She said that her dream, and she is younger than me, so her dream is to be a housewife. She doesn't want to be a working whatever wife. She wants to be a housewife because her value and her way to approach things is very traditional, where the man is the provider, she's the one taking care of the house. Just like, okay, that's your view, but me personally, I don't see that like that, because I would say that it's mostly having influence of the fact that I was raised by very much independent woman in my household.
Yeah.
So I will go more into the, like, I want to participate, but I don't need to put all the burden onto the men. That's where I feel like society have failed men in general, because we talk about, yeah, but now the men are not needed. That's where we failed men, because we're not allowing you guys to be emotionally open. Or to, now you're talking about your frustration, but look how extreme you went with the alpha people,
Yeah.
because they want to, they're I would say we are in a moment where they are confused onto what is going on with that, because they try to figure out what would be their ground standing. Either go back to that old tradition where the dad will be barely at the house working like crazy, but he provide for the family, and then both of them are alcoholic, or being someone who will be just open emotionally but will still be called feminine or gay or sissy, and say that, oh, you cry, oh, you're this, oh, you talk about your emotion, you weak, to a man. But for a woman, it's normal. She can be weak, but the problem is we also had allowed a lot of women to have a behavior that if a man had, it would not be acceptable.
Where do you think the notion of a man being a provider comes from? Or like, do you think that's just ingrained in society, or
It's ingrained in our evolution, I would say, because from the beginning, again, when you look physically, now I go with the how we look like physically. The men are bigger, larger chest, all that, the bone structure. Okay, so from that point of view, knowing that they were able to defend and protect, that's how it kind of naturally became that role of defend and protect. The woman was the one to take care, and the man was there to protect for against wild animals. But nowadays, there's no need to defend all of this as it used to. So now I would say most of men trying to figure out what is their role, what do they bring to the table, how they can be again that protector, because this being a protector just to put you in a high level where you're just like, damn, I am the man of the house. I protect my family, because that's how a man would defend that he is a man, because he have been protecting his family.
would you say most women want a provider though?
Yeah, even they don't want to say it. Oh yeah, they do. They will
But
say,
what does
"No,
that
I'm a
mean?
strong, independent feminist." No, they do. They do. Every woman in real life want that, because, again, if you look, to be honest, you look just the real facts here. Murder victims are highly more women than men. And second to that would be people who are in LGBT community. Those are the second most higher victim. After that, third, it will be children. But number one, women. Women are the easiest target. Men always are able to assault them, kill them, do whatever. It always will be the easiest target that they have. So even though the woman would say, I like to be independent, da, 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 when she is by herself, what does she do to protect herself? She would get herself a big ass dog. But if she doesn't have a dog, what she would do? She have always that one guy friend that she can dial the number anytime, and he will show up.
So you're saying it's to ask to seek out a guy who's fit or big or have muscular. It's an innate security instinct in women. Is you're like, I need to find myself. You need to be safe. So being with this guy in my brain ensures my security.
Exactly. It's like also when men have a specific type of woman that they're attracted to, because for them it's something that, even though we say that, oh no, we don't want this kind of thing, in the back of our head, straight women will always want to have a man that will be able to protect them, that will be able to protect, whether they are the most feminist on the planet or the most feminine shit that they like to create every day. They will still want that protector. I will tell you one thing. I will be honest. My dude, he's a big guy. Like, you see him, you're just like, yeah, okay. That one is kind of like, I'm not going to get shit to him. That's the type of dude that always being attractive. He's 6 foot tall, broad shoulders. You have the muscles and all that. And you have also kind of like that mean look, but that's something else. But when I'm going out with him, I feel safe. I don't feel like I need to be on my defense, because when I walk alone, for example, daylight or nighttime, I don't care. I will always have some sort of type of weapon with me, because my defense mechanism will be that. But with him, or him by himself, he walked by himself, nobody would try to jump him for no reason. Nobody would do that. But me as a woman, because I have those chromosomes, and also I have a fucking vagina, some crazy nuts job would just jump at me and say that she's tiny, I can just break that and do whatever. Even I can work out as much as I want. I can do a lot of different martial art. I will still never be strong to beat a man if he is determined to do whatever he wants to do to me. I'm being realistic with that. It's not about like, oh yeah, she's not doing enough, this or that. You can train as much as possible. Look, even like people working in police force, women get attacked, they get raped, they get murdered. It doesn't change anything. It's just that anytime that we are supposed to have this conversation when it comes to men and women, we also have to understand the biology, and also that being a feminist is not going to defend you against a dude who is determined to rape you. It's not going to protect you. They don't care.
Would you say the money aspect has now become secondary? Because I've seen the argument say that, okay, if you make a lot more money than the guy, then there might be something in your brain that's like, what do I really need him for in that aspect?
I would need him to go to the dark basement, check out that weird noise that I am afraid of to go at night. I will need him for opening that freaking jar that I can break my hand for. I can need him to hang stuff or lift some heavy stuff. It's just that a lot of time, men define themselves by money. And unfortunately, there's too many of that minority of women screaming so loud that they just want men with money, that it engraved to any regular man that women just want the ultra rich, that they want the 1%. But the one that are yelling the most are the 5% of bitches that normal girl will be like, no, we don't even try to pay them attention, because you can see them a mile away. But the guy wants to have the hottest bitch. So the hottest bitch, she need that money to be the hottest bitch. Men are still needed. And this is for people watching and our audience, especially guys. I define myself as a feminist, but I still need my man though. I still need him. Not just to say that, oh yeah, I make less money than him on anything. He doesn't do a job that he get a 10K a month. I don't care about that. He is there for me. I don't value him with his money. I value him for the person that he is. And I think that's where a lot of people got lost into this new generation. People don't look at people for being just that, people. They just look at dollar signs. Yes, we're struggling. We're all struggling with hard time, all that, but that's why there are jobs out there. Some people are very lazy. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to work. They don't want to, they just want to just lay there and money just flow on them. That's like a lot of my cousins that are back home. They're like that. They're very lazy. They don't want to do much effort. They say that they want to come to this country. They're not doing shit for it. Me, I'm the type where if I want something, I go after it. I wanted to have my driver's license. I took the driving class. I have my car sitting there in my parking lot, even though the lesson was shitty as fuck. And it doesn't stop me to want to still drive. I still push myself to go practice every time I can because I want that for me. And that's the part where I don't want to take away the power to the men in my life, because those traditional roles are here, sure, but we should not shun them and see them as degrading, because I think personally that sometimes those women who are keeping saying that, they're lying to themselves and they don't want to admit that they do need to have a man in their life to be that provider. Because even listen, that's the thing that I learned from my aunt. My uncle, he doesn't make a lot of money, but he's a provider of the house. And you know how? When they go out, he's the one paying. They don't go to fancy schmancy restaurants, but for him, it make him feel like, yes, I can treat my wife. The part where the money become an issue in those relationships, it would be if the woman always act like she is the boss of the house, the power. Getting that power and say that, oh, I make more money than you. How dare you? All that. Degrading your partner is not the solution. That's that's where the problem comes from. When the woman make more money than the man, because you're degrading him.
Do you think inevitably if a woman makes significantly more than the man, she will lose respect for him?
Not always. It depends. Because again, everybody are not the same, but it depends. If the guy doesn't act in a way where for his end that he is going just to sit on the couch all day doing nothing that he have control of, she would not degrade him. But if she is the type of where she would just come home and he did something for her, like he maybe came earlier than her and then did the dishes, and the woman doesn't give a shit about that and she always kind of degrading them, that's not okay. Because again, that go with how the person is, what is their character. If you appreciate the person for who they are, not just for the money that they bring, that relationship can work. But if you're just acting like you have that money power, you're money hungry, and degrade your partner, no, it's not going to work. That's where a lot of women fail. Those will say that, oh yeah, he cannot handle a strong woman. No, it's not that he cannot handle a strong woman. It's just you being disrespectful to your partner because he doesn't make as much as you. So you devalue his person. That's where the problem comes from.
I think it's we've seen, if you ever watched the Fresh and Fit, the guy, I know you guys don't like them, but well, she doesn't, Fatima doesn't like them, but you'll notice that the average woman on there is going after, they'll say like 80% of women are going after the top 10% of men.
Because
would you say
those girls are in their early 20s? If you look closely, none of them is over 25, and they all live in Miami. It's already a fucking red flag. When I was 22, and I will repeat that story until I am old enough and I'm still being wise enough at that time. When I was 22, my goal was to marry Trey Songz. Even though today the guy have a lot of sexual allegation against him, which is very sad. I was 22. I was just like, I will marry someone like him with that money, have a private jet, even make a joke that I will buy him because the moment I become rich, I will buy Trey Songz, stuff like that, which was stupid. I was 22 thinking that. So when people say, "Oh yeah, women are more mature," no, we're not. We are dumb. We have a moment of our life where we are so dumb that we're after this kind of shit. But after a certain point, I would say for me, again, that was a science thing when they say, yeah, 25, that's when your brain's fully formed. It's true. At 25, it kind of hit me. I kind of still had like, yeah, I will still go with them, but I still want to have my own stuff. And then more time goes by, we're just like, does it even matter? The guy will be rich like crazy. I will barely see him. And I'm the type where I need to be physically there. I feed off the energy of the person being present with me. When you're away, it's gonna be a challenge. So those women that you're calling, they're still I would say the pre-exist post teenagers, because those are your teenage year where you have money but you don't need to go to school. Your early 20s is basically that. It's when you are at your end 20s that then I would say that, yeah, you have a problem, my girl. Like you have
So
a
would you
problem.
so would you say they're capitalizing on women at that very early stage
Yeah,
and saying it represents all women and if they just
exactly.
talk, yeah.
They are choosing teenagers where women would just get out of teenage years because they're not teenagers, who come out of the years where they were teenagers, admiring, idolizing those super rich idols, right? And then put them there and saying that this is because for them in their mind, that's how they see that the right guy is that rich person. And
I
also
think I've
all the influence that they have.
I think they've also said like if a woman is successful in her 30s, she's going to also want a guy who's equally as successful around the same age. But they say that the issue is a guy who's the same age as that woman probably wants to go after a young woman.
It can be true, but not all for all of them. I would say that you can go with the part where it depends what is his status. Is he insecure to just to want don't want to date a woman in his her 30s, because that reaction, if they want to aim for someone who's younger, that you have someone who's 35 and he's aiming for a girl who's 23.
Yeah.
I will question a lot of things about him as a person instead of the girl, because the girl will think that, yeah, she wants to be with someone who's more mature, because at that age guys are still being like, you know what, I'm having the time of my life, this is college years, right? But most of the time I would say the guys that were in their 30s, it's just because they're not loud and they date the people of their age. They're not just talking about it, they just live their life. You don't see them go, oh, this is how you should treat a woman, or talk of this and that. You don't see them participate into those shenanigans because they have their shit together and they're happy in their relationship that they keep to themselves. They don't need to share with the planet.
Because I've heard some people say that I've heard the argument made from some guys say that they'd rather go for the younger woman because she's easier to mold and
That's
she
the
has
problem.
less
Yeah.
she has they said the woman in her 30s has more trauma, has more baggage, so she's less attractive because she's been through more stuff.
No, it's not that she have more trauma. It's just because she have the balls to kind of say fuck off. That's the problem. That's where they have an issue, and that's why they become those what they call beta male, but they call themselves alpha. I look at you fit and fresh or whatever.
Yeah.
Awesome. Kind of the name right for once. Don't get used to it. It's just that because they have that insecurity themselves. You don't approach those women because you know that you will they will call you out on your bullshit. That's why they aim for those younger women, because their brain is not fully formed to make them realize that this is fucked up. I should not accept that, because they know that they can easily influence those girls and say, oh, let's have a threesome, and they would do it. But go try to get that to a woman who had hit her 30s. Let's have a threesome. Do you think that it's trauma for her? It's just like, I'm not inviting someone else in my bed. It's just because they confuse boundary and trauma. Those women have boundaries, but for them, they're so used to people not telling them no, that it's not for them. Yeah, you have to have a trauma. They have to attack the women by saying that, yeah, it's trauma, or they're too angry, they're bitter because that age. No, you don't know. Some women really, really, genuinely just choose to be single because they have peace.
Would you say a woman who's 22,
Mm.
attractive, has more options at age 22 than she would at 32?
No,
You don't
she
think
have,
so?
she have equal options. It's just depend on which type of crowd that she will attract. It's just that the one who was 22, she will get the one who are attention seeking and will be the loudest. Because again, um, it's like a lot of things that people say, the successful one, the real successful one, not the Instagram figures, where they say you have to move in silence to make your business grow. Same thing. Relationship wise, everything. You move in silence. You have more control and power when you do that than it's when instead of being like they're all trash, or you have a one sided woman that say, oh, men are trash, and also the other guys and say, oh, women are just sluts. How
But
do
when
you
well, wouldn't the 22-year-old woman be
Hmm.
less worried about the biological clock as compared to a 33-year-old woman, though?
No, I
Because
will
she's
tell you one thing
yeah.
with that biological clock. Some women don't even give a shit about it at all, because it's not every woman that in their core want to be a mother. They don't. They don't hear that biological clock that people say is it's not always true. Some will have it very late. My mom had that idea of wanting to be a mom when she after well I was already born, but it was when she was like what 36, 37. That's when she
Yeah.
started to be like, yeah, I want to have another child. But before that, she didn't care. She didn't care about that part. And that's the part where I find it respectful for her, because she always being honest with it, that she doesn't want to please people with how and when it will happen. We come from a very traditional family where they have been pressuring her to have all the children after I was born, after when my brother was born. There was a lot of pressure and say that, yeah, you should have more kids, more kids. She was like, no, I don't want to. She have two daughters now, and she's like, yeah, it's fine, done. Even when she had my sister, some of my aunt will still say, you should have another one. She's like, why? No, I don't feel like it. And that's the thing. It's just that every woman don't have that clock coming in. They don't. Some can spend an entire life never having that in their mind, saying that, oh yeah, I should have children. No, I spoke with women that are over a certain age, never had children, and they don't regret it at all. And I respect that, because I'm the type and say that, yeah, I still would want to have a child, even adopting, that'll be fine. But she was like, no, I don't miss it. I'm very happy the way I am. I don't like children anyways. I'm just like, damn, I respect that, because at least she's honest about it. You know that she will not hurt a human being. That's the thing. Is just that a lot of time people don't realize that now women are vocalizing the fact that a lot of women that had children, you will see that half of them didn't want them. And you also see the stories of those who have pushed to their strength to murder their children.
I think the argument is like, because you look at like when people come to marriage, you're gonna go for a guy who's taller or bigger than you for essential security. I guess the argument that people would present is your children might subconsciously also be your sense of security, because when you're old and decrepit,
Yeah.
historically or biologically, your kids
So
are supposed to be the ones who are taking care of you.
that was the
So
case before. That was the
yeah,
case before, because again, the way that the technology and also medicine had evolved, that was the case before. Now some people don't care. They're willing to pay a stranger to come wipe their butt instead of their kid. The Western society, that's how they have built it. Back home, it's not like that. We don't have retirement home. So you will have a hard time to see anybody being by themselves. You don't have children, you have your niece and nephew taking care of you. That's how it goes out back home. So that pressure of biological clock, I would say that is valid for some women, but not for everybody. And
but
also, it's a pressure that doesn't need to exist.
I mean, old people if they're alone, I can't empathize with them fully because I'm not old myself. But I feel like if I was 75 years old, I would like to be around the company of my grandchildren and my children, like my legacy. more than being taken care of by some caretaker.
Yeah, but right now you talk about legacy. That's where the difference come from. You're talking
Yeah.
about legacy. I think that's where human in general the fear come from. It's about the legacy and say that it will end with me. Especially for men is also like something very important. That's why in your mind when they were saying that yeah there's a biological clock for women, they also want for men, but people don't want to admit it. They don't want to recognize it because the older you're getting, the less your sperm will be good, and then you will have crippled kids. Just admit it.
Yeah, that is partially true.
It's
but it's
not
not at the
partially, it's
same.
just true. It's true, man.
But a guy could, in theory, have a child at 60 years old.
Yeah, but the thing is his semen would not be as good at if he was 25.
That's a fact. But I think they use the argument that he still can.
Yeah, but even it's not because you still can that mean that you should.
That's fair.
You see some women now being pregnant at 50. It's not because you can that you should. That's the thing. It's like everybody will getting pregnant and have a crap load of kids, but they don't even taking care of them. It's not because you can reproduce that you should. And I repeat again, it's not because you can that you should.
See, my thing about that, like I agree with you. I see your point where you're coming from. I just think that if you're really old and you're alone, like I've gone to long-term care homes where no one's visiting the old people. They just look very sad.
I know.
Like, don't you want to be visited by? Don't you want to be in the company of people who care about you? Like, I don't mean legacy as in like your kid. Like,
you know,
everybody wants to feel loved, right?
We had that conversation in one episode of like the previous season about being the loneliness and being alone, where people don't understand that the fear of loneliness is that what push us to have children. But the thing is, when we have those children, look also how they treat their own kids. Why they don't visit them? It's not because they didn't have children. Sometimes it's just that it's purposely that they don't want to see their parent, which is sad. Because I don't want to peg that onto those who didn't have children. Because sometimes for those who didn't have children, they have nephews that will still take care of them, will love them dearly, and will still go visit them. The one who don't get visit is not always the one without children. You'll be surprised to know how much is people who have full-fledged children. They will tell you, oh, I have 4 kids. Where are they? None of them visit. You know how I know that? My daily job. And also when I was a kid, I used to hang out to a retirement home that was not far from my school. A lot of those people that I was saying being lonely were the one with children. Because they lost connection with them. They didn't create that bond of relationship to make them like, if they go in a retirement home, they will be visit every freaking week. They didn't build that with their kids.
I guess there's no way to mitigate it, but I guess the logic is you have a better chance of being less lonely if you had kids than if you not had kids. I guess that would be the argument.
Yeah, but if you have kids, it also get you older faster, by the way.
Possibly.
Yeah. I have just a question for you. This is something that I was like in my mind just like for a very long time.
Yeah.
Let's say one day you are married, you have children, and you have, let's say, 2 sons, and one of them come to you and say he's gay. How would you react to it?
That's interesting.
It's not both of them. It's just one of them telling you that he's gay, but he still have the values that you have give him, but he's just telling you that he's just attracted to men.
Well, I would say I would ask him from a religious perspective. Okay, I would explain to him why the religion has the opinion on it. I mean, I would still he's still my kid. I'm not gonna abandon him or gonna like destroy him. He's still my child. But I'll explain to him that there is disagreements with certain beliefs. I mean, if you're talking about from a completely religious perspective, if you're talking about Islam, the act of being attracted to the same-sex gender is technically not a sin. It's the act of acting on it. So there's some people who look at that and say, maybe that's just your test from God, and it's part of your journey and how you, and this is part of what you have to go through as an adult in dealing with it. So it doesn't, I wouldn't tell you to just completely forget about your religion. I think that people make that mistake. As soon as their kid says that, they just push them away, and then the kid ends up like disowning the family. So my thing would be to not make the kid disown the family, but to just try to make sense of it, but still provide some sort of form of support.
Yeah, but it's not a phase though. Because the way that you explained to me right now, it sounds like it would be a phase, but it's not. It's their sexuality. It's like you're straight, I'm straight. It's not a phase that one day I'll be like, yeah, actually I like women. I cannot, because as I said many times, I can say that yeah, a woman is beautiful as a straight woman. Say that yeah, she's beautiful, she's attractive, but I don't see myself be like, yeah, I would do that. But I would be in my mind, if I was a dude, I get it. I will go with it. But you would not see me one day wake up and say that I am a lesbian.
Would you say that some people can be influenced by a multitude of factors, like if they
Possible.
had trauma, if they were raped as a
No,
child, if
no, not at
doesn't
all. I don't think trauma has nothing to do with sexuality. Your sexuality is already there. It's just that you have a certain age where it will awaken it. It's not obvious from the beginning.
do you think people can change, or like at one point they could think they're gay, then end up being straight, or vice versa?
No, you cannot. Those are things that are, it's like saying that, oh, do you think that someone can one day wake up, he's black, and then the next day he's very blonde, blue eyed, and all the skin also white? No, it's something that you cannot change. You can't. Yes, you can experience here and there, but your main attraction will still remain the same.
No, I would just tell them to live their life. I mean, I've seen some people argue. I've seen some Muslims argue with this, that if you find a guy who's attracted to men, you should match him up with the woman who's attracted to women, and then force them to have children.
No,
That
that's
way
bad.
you find two people that are in the same level as each other, and
They
then they
would
make.
not want to touch each other at all.
But then they're having children for the sake of having children, and
Yeah,
then
see, that's how you create trauma.
yeah.
That's how you create trauma, because you force people to do something that they don't, it's not natural to them. That's how you create trauma. That's the thing that people don't understand. When you forbid people to do so much, like you try to mold them to a certain image, that's how you create trauma. That's why you see sometimes in some households that people get beaten for no damn reason, that you see them go through alcohol, consume a porn again, consume other type of substance, because they have been molded so hard that their core self is just screaming to be out, but they can't.
No, I hear you there. I wouldn't completely disown my kid. I would just try to
Okay,
say
Abid,
out.
you heard
Yeah, no,
that it would not completely disown you.
no. I don't want to. I'm trying to play it. I'm it's like giving a political answer here. It's a complicated issue, and I mean, when you're religious and everyone knows what most of the Abrahamic faiths say about it.
Yeah.
But I also have friends who are gay, and I mean, they know what those books say. But I mean, like, it's when I
That's
discuss
me.
it, I don't discuss morality with it's sort of just something that I'm like, you guys know it, we know it. I don't deny but it's sort of like, at the end of the day, ultimately, we want to be honest. Like, there's faith is faith, because we don't actually know what's going to happen at the end. That's why no one's 100% sure. If you want to be honest, like, there's no way to 100% tell somebody this is exactly what's going on. That's why there's so many different religions.
Yeah.
So I dropped the belief personally that God is the most understanding in general. Like, this is just a universal principle, and that as long as you're a righteous person, at the end of the day, God will know that, and you'll be rewarded for it. So I don't exactly, maybe there's not exact nuances to like provide proof of that, but I like to think that God is genuinely merciful, so that there'll be understanding regardless.
Yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
that's a good way to look at it, because I noticed that people decide to weaponize religion against people that for them are seen as odd or don't fit their mold. they tend to weaponize that a lot. And I read and study multiple religions, and I noticed that that's a common thread for those who are kind of like very extremist with that. That's why I kind of like put myself away from it, because they weaponize it so much that it doesn't give you the freedom to be you as a person.
Yeah, I've used the argument like everyone's seen like those videos of like what's the Westboro Baptist Church, the one that says like God hates fags.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you're not gonna change anyone's opinion by waving that outside of like a gay
How
marriage.
God hates sex, so how babies are made, man. Uh-huh. Ta-da.
So I mean, like that's just
It's just their logic does not make sense, because their disturbed mind want to force their views on so many people, because they see those people being happy, it pisses them off. They're like, no, you have to be miserable like me.
I'll ask you a question because you grew up in France, but
Yeah,
you're born in Africa. You know, for the most part, homosexuality is largely taboo across most of the African continent.
that's
So
true.
why would you say homosexuality has been viewed this way in Africa?
Because that's come from the indoctrination of two major religions. Before the colonization started, I'm not talking about the time of Christopher Columbus. I talk about before the Roman Empire come in and all that, and all the Muslim come in there. There were all type of sexuality. People were just embracing that. That was totally fine. But then the outsider, and if you notice, it's not just in Africa, even in other countries, other places in the world, when Christianity, Judaism, and Islam came in effect, that's when everybody kind of have like this brainwash and say those things are sin, because you have different religion where you have gods for homosexuals, you have gods for lesbian, you have this and that and that. Everything was saying that it was natural, because even when you observe in the nature, you also see animals being gay, but it's not because they observe humans that's mean that, yeah, that make them gay. It's just something that is natural. Your attraction, there's nothing you can do about it. But I think it's just that the trauma and the indoctrination was so severe in continent that that's why homosexuality have been viewed as something evil. It's the devil who did that. You're not gay. You can't be gay. Or don't be gay. This type of stuff. You will hear some fuck up stuff like that.
So you say it's of the Abrahamic faith? Because I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
if you
Because
could,
again,
yeah.
don't forget one thing. They weaponize what they want to weaponize. How do you think that they were able to justify slavery by saying that God had chosen African people to be slaves, which is not true? There's no way in the Bible or the Quran or Torah saying that. None of those three say that they have been chosen to be slave. They use that to say that's the justification of slavery. So don't you think that they would also choose some specific things and say to people who never read Latin or all their Western way to write things, and say, these are the word of God you have to follow? But who is the God saying that? Is me, the white person, or the person who is more dominant or have more weapon against you? And I'm telling you that this is an act of abomination. That's how it went. That indoctrination went like that, where they just chose and select some specific thing and say, this is act of abomination. Did you know that in Africa we still read El Quran still in the original Arabic,
Yeah.
but nobody understand what the fuck they're reading? I'm telling you that. I went to a Quranic school. I went there. I was beat up because I was reading the things maybe wrong, slightly wrong, because first of all, it's not my language. And also I was asking, but why does it say that? Why you make me do this, but it doesn't say that in there? I was questioning, but all they want is just that do as I say, don't question anything. That's where the confrontation come from for me. It's just because everything I would just like in my head, I'm willing to love God, but explain to me, why should I follow this specific way? Nobody
Yeah.
here will give me an answer.
And I'll say that that's a issue with a lot of religious Muslim. Like a lot of them will just, it's very dogmatic.
Religion, not
Like they'll
just
tell you,
Islam.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they won't explain the methodology behind it, or the nuance, or like
Mm.
why the belief applies. They'll say don't eat pork, but they'll not explain, well, okay, why don't
Yeah.
people eat pork?
They don't. They would just say, don't eat it. It's haram. You also hear that with Jewish people. They also tell you, don't eat it. Why? Because I was like, okay, that's weird, but why you allow me to eat everything here, but not this one? Why? What is the reason?
I mean,
But
there is a reason, but I think they should
yeah,
have done a better job.
no, the thing is, okay, so this is around the time that they were writing all those books. It's just that because when they were doing raising animals and all that, pork were the dirtiest, meaning that they will eat everything. They will eat even also feces, human feces. So that's why a lot of people were thinking it was not hygienic to eat that. So especially in the region where they were more dominant and growing there, they could not. So that's why they were forbidding that. It was more hygienic, and then it got transformed to religious. Because again, remember one thing, all those books at first were book of law. It was the law that was followed in there. That was why the 10 Commandments exist, because it was a book of law telling you, don't do this, don't do that, you should not kill. It's not, I know that a lot of people would say, yeah, but those are the word of God. I get that. But also when you read it in a way where it's not religious, you understand that it's kind of like the civil code or the whatever act that you have here in Canada, when they say, oh, everybody is born equal and blah, blah, blah. 15,000 years from now, maybe those people would say, oh, it's a new religion too. You can see that.
I know, but I've had conversations with pig farmers, and they've told me if you're bleeding slightly while you're feeding your pigs will eat your hand off.
They eat everything. They don't discriminate. They eat everything. That's the part that a lot of those time when they were including that in those books, it was saying that because it's so filthy and not hygienic, because you can die by eating something weird that a pork had eaten. They eat human feces. They're able to eat that.
So then I'm saying that inherently, like if you look at the composition of pork compared to other animals, makes it more unclean.
Yeah.
Then.
So it's mainly that. And also when you do an autopsy about like the entrail of a pork and a human being is very similar.
Oh. Yeah.
That's
so then
why,
that would, yeah.
That's why you see people have a heart transplant from a pork, this kind of thing.
So you say there's a reason that pork shouldn't be eaten then.
Yeah.
Or at least, yeah.
But at the time, there was a reason. But now, look, as you were saying that someone who have a pig farm tell you that there's a very more structured and very organized way to get them raised without having all those diseases, because at the time we didn't have the technology or the science for it.
Yeah, but even my friend who raised pigs will still tell you that they're very disgusting animals.
Oh yeah, they're disgusting. They are disgusting. I don't disagree on that. That's true, but I still love bacon. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I think that in terms of like going back to the main topic, there's a bit of culture, there's a bit of values, there's a bit of it all shapes how you.
Yeah, the person that you are actually determine how you value the other person that you invite in your life.
And having an LGBT episode might be interesting one of these days, but I'm not sure. We probably have a guest on.
I have a friend that she is LGBT, so I will be able to get her there.
That would actually be a good episode, like just to have different conversations about it. Yeah.
She's bi, and also, by the way, she's bi, and she's married to a man, and she's a feminist. She have a very, very interesting opinion. I like her a lot. She's a wonderful friend. I call her she, but maybe now is something else that maybe she's going through they, them. I don't know, but
yes,
I will ask her.
Do you have your pronouns in your email and all that?
Huh? No.
Do you, when you in your email they ask you put your LL or she L or?
No, I didn't do that. The only place where I did it was on my Instagram for my writing. So FK Alden, by the way, follow it.
Yeah.
That one for my writing, I put that there to say she, her, because it's just initial and then the Alden, and people can be like, yeah, whatever they want to still insist to say, I want to call you the right pronouns. I'll put that. I'm not a they, them. I'm not a she, them. I am a she. So I
Yeah.
just say with that does not change for me. That will be a very interesting conversation to have with my friend. And because lately I've been watching a lot of YouTube talking about those topics, and also some transgender and transsexual talking about their experience and how this non-binary conversation can be an issue. So I think that it will be a great conversation for another episode. But
Yeah.
for now, yeah, we have been talking about like values, where Abid finally stopped to act like he was one of those foot and fresh guys for a minute. So that's good to get you back, like the normal Abid. This
Yeah.
is the normal you, not
Yeah.
the
The last two episodes.
yeah.
No, but I mean, I
Nothing,
think
which I don't know their name anymore.
no. I mean, I was. It's how you. I told you that this episode was going to be different than the other ones, but
Yeah.
it's the approach to it and how you presented it, and letting the other person speak, and then
Mm.
hearing like, that's the whole point of the podcast, right?
Yeah. But see, that's the part where a lot of podcasts that are out there, I don't like to listen to them because they don't try to listen actively what the person's saying. They try just to put their point across. They're here to respond. They don't here to listen and learn something. You and I, we can disagree on a lot of things. On the
Yeah.
point episode, I think if we were able to uh, articulate that in a different way, it would not haven't gone the way it went. Or the cheating episode as well, because the approach there were just, no, I'm just stuck on my views. We were trying to also get onto what was your approach to some of those topics. It wasn't trying to attack you or anything. It's just that if you already go with a closed mind, of course the conversation would not go to a direction that you're looking for.
I think my thing was that I took back from that was there's a point where I was like,
Mm.
you guys are saying I'm controlling, and they're saying I'm pushing religion, but
That's not you.
my argument for that was I don't think I am, because inevitably the person
Mm.
who would end up going with someone like me would probably have the same values anyway, so they would demand the same things from their partner.
Yeah,
Like
but
it goes both ways, right? It's not me pushing my values.
well,
It's
no,
yeah,
it would not be you pushing your values, but it's just that when we were arguing about it, your arguments were very pushy and controlling onto it.
they
It
can
was
come off like
because
yeah.
I know that you're not a controlling asshole. I know you. I mean, you're probably the kindest person, and also sometimes, unfortunately, dumb person that I know when it comes
Yeah.
to a woman, because they are able to manipulate you in a way that I don't understand, and I want to fight them for some reason. But it's just that the way you were putting your arguments at the time. If you rewatch, wait until I put it out. You rewatch it, you will understand what I'm saying. You will
Yes.
see. I would need you to watch yourself from start to finish, so then you will understand where we were coming from.
I'll definitely rewatch the pod, but I think that podcast left me with more. So I'm really glad we got this episode
Yeah,
out of the way.
me too.
'Cause, yeah,
That's
because
good,
yeah,
because we're supposed to learn from this, not
yeah.
taking a
Yep.
hard time. Anyhow, we had a very good conversation today, I think, a very constructive one. We will soon do another with a guest, and we have a couple more just to give me a little bit of time, people, to edit everything. Now that I have new toys to edit, it's kind of fun now, so just want to make it look good. I mean, last one.
Yeah, keep finding people that you like. I don't know, like it's part of the game. Everyone's got to play the game, you know.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know, eventually, I say it's the law of averages, man. If you don't find someone good, you know, eventually you got to find someone good. So, you know, just find someone you like.
Mm.
And if you don't find someone you like, you probably will learn a little bit more to hopefully the next one's slightly better, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's
Learn
life.
about yourself. I would say
Exactly.
put yourself first, learn about yourself. Don't cave in just because everybody around you are in a relationship. It's not because your friend in a relationship that means that it's a happy one. And it doesn't mean that you have to be also in one just to fit in. Find yourself, figure out your shit, and then after that, start with someone and have a good life.
Exactly.
Yeah, build your values, create a spine, for God's sake. Stop being a slimy, whatever mold, play dough kind of thing.
Okay, this is Weird Millennials. Her name's Fatima. My name's Abid, and we're out.
Deuce.
Close.